Okay, it's 10:30, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Present today we have myself, Councillor Mike Bland, Chair of the panel, along with Councillors Joe Howes and Dane Buckman on either side of me, who are panel members. Also in attendance are Anton Walden, Licensing Officer, Peter Key, Legal Advisor, and Lauren Wheeler, Democratic Services Officer. There is no fire alarm planned for this morning, so should the alarm sound, please leave via the nearest available emergency exit, which is either the door through the glass screen over there or straight out the back through the double doors onto the riverbank. For guidance on making your own recordings of this hearing, please see the notices in the agenda for this meeting. I can confirm that this meeting is being minuted and audio recorded for the Council's website. So we'll follow the agenda as published. And number one is apologies for absence. Lauren, are there any apologies?
No apologies today, Chair.
Thank you. Number two is substitute councillors. Lauren, are there any substitute councillors?
No substitutes today, Chair.
Okay, number three is declaration of any interests. Lauren, have any declarations been received in advance?
We've received no declarations, Chair.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any further declarations?
No.
No further declarations from the panel. So the order of business is set out on page 5 of the agenda and will be followed for this meeting. Basically, I'll give a brief outline. We will be considering one application this morning as the matter which was published as Agenda 5 relating to a variation to the premises licence of the Prince Albert C Street, Whitstable, CT51AN has been withdrawn as that matter has been resolved separately. But I will need to ask the panel for permission to withdraw that when I come to that. The main item is a variation to the premises licence application for the Old Garage Bar, Hampton Bay Park, Whitstable Road, Herne Bay, CT6, 8BL. I'll be asking the licensing officer to introduce the application. After that, I'll be asking the applicant, Mr. Philpott, to make his application. At the end of that presentation, any subcommittee members may ask questions of the applicant. Any responsible authorities, were they present, would be able to ask questions as well, but we have no responsible authorities present. And then other persons, i.e. members of the public who are interested in this application, who have raised issues to do it, may ask questions of the applicant as well. Following that, responsible authorities could make a statement, but we have none present. And then we go to other persons, which is anybody that wishes to make comment on the application will be able to put their representation at that point. Same thing applies. Councillors can ask the other person questions and the applicant themselves may ask the other person questions too. As I've said, there aren't any responsible authorities, so that doesn't apply. And then after that, the applicant has a right to summarise the application. Following that, the subcommittee will then retire to the members' room for a time, which we will give you an idea how long that is likely to be. So we will retire for that period of time, and we'll give you an idea when we're coming back to announce our decision. I hope that's fairly clear to everybody. There is a final agenda item, which is any other urgent business. Having explained that, I'll move to item 5, which is the question of the withdrawal of the variation to the premises licence. That's been withdrawn as it's been resolved. And do I have the agreement of the panel to the withdrawal of that matter?
Yeah.
Okay, that matter is therefore agreed to be withdrawn as it's been resolved. Okay, we therefore move to item 6, which is the under the Licensing Act 2003 variation to the premises licence for the Old Garage Bar, as mentioned earlier. Okay, if you just bear with me for a moment. Okay. As I've stated already, we'll be following the order of business on page 5. We have present, besides Mr. Philpott, who is the applicant, 2 other persons who wish to raise questions as to the application, and they are Mark Savale and Elspeth Cooper, who are sitting either side in the hall. So they'll be able to ask questions at the appropriate point. Okay, so that said, can I ask Anton, as the licensing officer, to introduce the application?
Thank you, Chair. This is an application in accordance with Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003. The premises is the Old Garage Bar, Hampton Bay Park, Whitstable Road, Herne Bay, CT6 8BL. The applicant is Hamar Leisure Limited, and the variation is to extend the licensable footprint by adding a function room and add or remove conditions. In particular, allow the general public to benefit from licensable activity for certain events, and to remove the restriction that the premises cannot be used outside of the 1st of November to the 1st of March. I can advise the meeting that the councillors and officers visited the premises this morning. The visit is purely to ascertain the layout, look at the placement of CCTV cameras, etc., and look around the vicinity to see where objections may have come from. The merits of the application are not discussed because they will have to be discussed in the presence of the objectors at the hearing. If there were any untoward conversations or there was discussion about the application, we would repeat that today, but I can assure you there was none. I don't know if you have any questions, sir.
I don't have any questions. That's clear. Thank you very much for summarising the application. I'll move therefore to Mr. Philpott, who is the applicant on behalf of Hamar Leisure Limited, to make the application. Mr. Philpott.
Right, okay. I don't actually know how we'll do this, but the application is, obviously we have built a function hall. The point of the application is obviously to licence that area, plus us to be able to use it for functions through the winter months. So basically I can keep my staff on. The actual functions and that would obviously be open to the general public, but only under the fact that they would have to be booked in at least 48 hours before a function. So we'd have a list of who they are and what they are. It's not something that anybody can just walk in off the street from. Basically, I think that's about it. It's not overcomplicated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Philpott. At this point, myself and the other fellow councillors can ask you questions, and I will start. So your answers may fill out some of your application for our consideration. So at the moment, you do have a licence at the Old Garage Bar, which pertains to what space?
It pertains to the actual bar itself, which is holds about 30 people. It's relatively small, but that is fine just for the campers, for whatever. If we have a function or we have any live music or anything, then that needs the larger space. We have its second year of the bar being open, and it has grown so fast for our own customers that we need the space and to keep my staff, which is very hard to come by, the good staff. I don't really want to lay them off for 5 months because I couldn't expect them to be there again next season. And to get quality workers, you need to look after them.
Okay, so you're mentioning seasonal use at the moment. So
Yeah.
what is the seasonal use currently?
The seasonal use currently, it's from the first weekend in April through to the last weekend in October. And then we're closed for 5 months through the winter.
Okay, so
We have no wish to open the actual camping side of it for the 5 months in the winter, because the costs of putting in hard standings and roads and everything else is just not viable. So it literally would be for the one-off things like weddings and, wakes or whatever, to just literally keep the staff going.
So currently, the Old Garage Bar, which is in the Old Garage Bar, literally,
Yeah.
is only used for 6 months of the year,
Yeah, I think it works out at seven
7 months of the
yeah.
year, and that is for the use of campers on site.
Only, yes.
So only for campers on the site currently. So you're not actually talking about opening the caravan site for 12 months of the year.
No, we don't want to do that at all.
Okay, so you're asking to open it for, is this the same number of hours that you currently have on your license?
The license, yeah, the hours won't differ, but if it's a function, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be from 12 till 12. If we have a function in, I'm sure it's going to kick off maybe 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening till midnight.
Okay, so basically in the current bar, you have music, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you have soundproofing in the current bar?
Yes, we do.
Right. You've built an extension because you're intending to hold functions for the remaining 5 months of the year, yeah?
Also, in the normal term of when we are open, we're going to provide entertainment for the site.
So you want to be able to use it for functions for the whole 12-month period?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And what kind of functions are you envisaging?
With normal entertainment, in live music, comedy clubs, that kind of thing.
Okay. Are you talking about holding weddings and
Yes,
birthday
yeah, which
parties?
obviously, as you've seen today, we can lock it off from the bar. So if we have a private function, our customers, if it's in the season, can still use the bar, but they won't be able to get in the function room.
Okay. So tell us about the extension then. I mean, what kind of soundproofing have you for the extension?
A lot. We started off with 200 mil of insulation in the floor, followed by obviously the concrete and the screeding. All the walls are up to the latest standards, which I think is it 160 or 180 mil in the cavity. The ceiling has got 300 mil of insulation, plus 2 layers of 15 mil acoustic plasterboard over the top of that, then a false ceiling. So it's as stringent as we can do it.
And how have you tested this?
By taped music, well, taped, that's an old phrase, isn't it? But digital music through the system, which I have in there, run at, I think it's about 98 dB inside. And then on the outside, we measured it with the dB meter. As we walked around outside, it was in the low 30s. And then by the time we got past our office, there was nothing. So I think low 30s is background noise anyway. So
So 98 dB when you were doing
per
these
watt per
tests
meter inside, yeah,
inside,
which is fairly loud.
that's quite loud.
Yeah.
What kind of that's your test, but what do you think your live events might achieve inside?
If you had a rock band in there, they're not going to play over that at all. Most solo duo acts or whatever are going to be running around the 80, 82, something like that. This is part of the thing that I know a little bit about because I've been a professional musician since I was 15. So, and had a PA company and whatever. So matching the equipment for a room is what I do. So it has a lovely sound in there and it doesn't escape.
Okay. Tell us about the surroundings to the site in respect of how many near neighbours do you have?
Our closest neighbour is in Vauxhall Avenue, and that is 70 metres away. And after that, on the opposite side of the hall, there is nothing until we get to the boot fair. We have one neighbour at the bottom of the field, which is about 150, 160 metres away. So on that score, on the one side where it's 70 metres, that is Stud Hill. So there are neighbours all the way down, but graduating further and further away.
Okay. And have you had any discussions with the near neighbours regarding your application to date?
Once or twice, but nothing direct, mainly in the form of letters to your good selves. But we have an open door policy. If anybody wants to come up and see what we're doing, find out why we're doing it, they're always welcome. So we can't do much more than that.
Okay. Okay. That's me for the moment. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask other members of the panel if they have any questions. Councillor Howes?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, following on from that, you've got recorded music taking place in the current bar, and
Yeah.
you've told us about soundproofed. But there's the doors which would be open for smoking in and out. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, but we have a lobby.
Yeah.
We have the main doors, which in the summer are open, but we don't have music on when they're open. We may have background from a TV or whatever, but it's not at a level. Then we have a lobby, which has two double glazed doors on. So if we were to have music, those doors are shut and the lobby doors are what people come through. So there's always one door shut out the pair for coming in and out.
Okay. And outside space is only going to be available to smokers. That's correct, isn't it? And that's from 10:30 after 10.
Up until 10:30.
Up until
Yeah,
10:30.
yeah,
Okay. Just go back to something you said about a function.
yeah.
So, for example, you've got a wedding in the extension, and you've got your campers in the bar, and you said the door's going to be closed.
Yeah.
Those guests in the wedding, are they going to have access to the bar?
Yes,
Or-
yes,
So
of
it's not going to
course.
be bring your own?
No. They'll have access to the bar.
Okay. So obviously that door's going to be...
Yes, yeah. We're looking to do the functions in the winter months, not as much in the summer. We might have something midweek at, say, a comedy club or something, but then that would then be our people from the fields would be allowed to come in the bar. And if they want to go into the hall, they would obviously have to pay the fee to get in there.
So they're going to be ticketed events.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that way you're going to have a note of everybody who's turning up.
Everybody, yeah. Yeah.
Because you talked about you're going to make note of somebody who books it, so you will have a list of every guest who's coming to a wedding.
If it's a wedding, it would be the person who books the wedding and their responsibility to have contact to everybody. So they would be our contact, and they would know who's coming to their wedding. If it's a private function, which we're putting on, then we will carry a book and have everybody's names, address, phone numbers.
Okay, one of the things it talks about is SIA, so security staff.
Yeah.
How many of those types of events do you believe you're going to hold each year? Because you've told us you're going to have things like coffee clubs, bands,
Yeah.
weddings.
Yeah.
So,
Security-wise, we do not think that we are going to be at a venue which will need doormen, because I think doormen are the end of a quality venue for myself. I'm at every event, my barman's at every event. We police ourselves very well. If I had to have doormen, I probably wouldn't want to do it. Because that's if I thought an event warranted such a thing, I wouldn't want it. We're, we want to be perceived as a quality place which is friendly, not somewhere that, all right, you're going to pile them all in and stick some doormen on. That's not what we're about at all.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got no further questions.
Okay, Councillor Buckman?
Yeah, hi there. What would the capacity be that you're looking at for the new venue? How many people do you think you can
I'm
fit in
thinking
that
a
room?
maximum of 80.
Maximum. Because you say about sort of functions and and one of the reasons is like keep staff on.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to get rid. So if you haven't got functions, because I wouldn't have thought a function isn't really a regular type thing.
No, it won't be.
So you could go through like a month or so without
Yeah.
having a function, and then would you still keep the staff on?
What I'm doing at the moment, my bar manager is living on site, so he's there. So what I'm doing with him is we will run the functions between us, so he earns a bit more money. It's not really a detail which is anything, down here, but it's to keep him there. He has a roof over his head as part of our agreement, but it's to keep a bit of cash flowing for him. And then we have part-time bar staff who come in who are part-time, and they will still be able to come and do some bits and pieces. But it would be nice to get one a fortnight.
Yeah,
Not-
I guess because if you're having a function and things, you'd have to have enough room to store the alcohol and things like that. So how many do you think?
Well, we've
would you
got
do a
the-
week? Would it be? Are you sort of in your head? Are you sort of thinking, I can sort of do two functions, or maybe not function, or two regular nights, maybe call it like that, a week?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, not a week, no.
no, you're more thinking of like sort of for a month or.
If we were lucky for a month, but through the period, I would only think one a fortnight.
Yeah, because I guess you would need. Yeah, you've got to pay at some point. You've got to sort of pay for your
Yes.
room, really, haven't you? So,
Yeah.
okay. Is the entrance? The entrance is it just by the road, and you can't actually get onto your site?
No,
through any
there's
other
no
way?
other way on. Well, at the moment, I do have a right of way, but it's been blocked by someone, so it's not one that the council wants me to use anyway. for my-
Sure. Yeah, because I know you said like you want to keep it like sort of a friendly atmosphere and thing, and
Yes,
that's fair enough. But you never know who you're gonna, who could walk up the road and want to get in if they hear some music going, if they've just come in and.
Well, hopefully with the money I've spent on soundproofing, they won't hear any music up the road at all.
No, you could still hear the sort of vibration of sort of drums, you know, like drums or the snare or something. They're quite, you know, it's a bit hard to turn down a drum kit.
It won't go through it.
No,
Really, it won't.
that's right. No, I was just sort of picking up really about the door, like the security as well. Like, what do you do with the if people do just turn up uninvited, because like they do, you know, how do you deal with them then? Do you just sort of see them, walk them down to the end of the road, and
Yeah,
sort of, you wouldn't want anyone having you wouldn't have anyone wanting to take some sort of claim against you for if you're not like a sort of registered sort of doorman, security, etc.
I do have customers who are in that business who are willing to help me out on that. But as I said, it's a route I prefer not to go
You know.
because I just feel it intimidates people. And you don't need, you can talk to people and chat people away rather than push them away, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, have you ever thought about going down like sort of the TENS type, you know, the temporary licensing type thing for these events rather than having it?
We could do that, but then if you do get busy with it, you're applying for this all the time.
Yeah,
I might as well try and do it properly the first time and get it done, and then it's in place rather than just keep having to, you know, fill in a form, do this and
yeah.
pay a fee. I'd rather it was done properly and, you know, sorted.
Yeah, no, that's. And the only bar is going to be in where it is at the moment.
Yes,
You're not going to
yeah,
put like
yeah.
a little.
No, we're not
stall
going
in
to put
in the
another
hall.
one in. No.
Okay. That's all.
I've got a couple of extra questions.
Okay.
Come from some of your responses so far. So you're talking about holding maybe one function a week.
We'd like to, if we got that lucky.
Okay, so you think maybe only one function a week, but it could be two if you get a lot of demand, yes?
I would be super happy if it was, but I can't see it.
All right. But then the license would be allowing you to hold more than one function
Yeah,
a week
yeah.
if granted as you've requested. Okay. Would you be intending to advertise for these functions?
Yes, we would. Yeah.
So if it's not a wedding, presumably you wouldn't advertise somebody's wedding.
No, obviously not. But we would advertise the fact that we are available for, you know, the hall's available for that.
But if you're holding a band or a comedy act or some other entertainments, that you'd be intending to advertise for those.
Yes, yeah.
And then the expectation would be that people would get tickets from you beforehand for those
Beforehand, yes.
functions?
At least 48 hours beforehand.
Yeah. What if somebody else, having seen your advert but not having purchased a ticket, sees that you've got a function on, but they simply wanted to come to your site to use the old garage bar as is, without going into the function, would they be allowed in?
No.
Even if they let you know 48 hours, we'd like to come?
No, they'd have to be coming for the function.
So only people coming to the function would be
Yeah, it's,
allowed in.
we don't want traffic off the road, if you know what I mean by that. Yeah,
Okay. I wanted to have that clear.
yeah.
Okay. Right. I think we've finished. Have we got any other questions?
Yeah, can I just ask? But so there's no access on Vauxhall
No,
Avenue, and you've provided us with a map, and you said you have got a right of way.
that's from Ford Close.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, that's all our questions. We don't have any responsible authorities here, so they can't ask any questions. So I'm going to ask whether the objectors would like to ask any questions of Mr. Philpott at this stage. And I have to say, it's only...
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Perhaps it may assist the objectors if I ask a few clarification points before they ask questions.
That would be absolutely fine. So, okay. Our licensing officer and our legal advisor will ask some clarification points first, and then I'll come to the objectors to ask any questions. This isn't where you outline your objection. You're just asking Mr. Philpott questions of his application so far. Okay, but first of all, our licensing officer, Mr. Walden.
Firstly, sir, in respect of current functions, you said you're not looking to change any hours. What time do you have music at those functions?
Yes, we would, yeah.
And what time do they finish?
We normally finish at 11.
Yes. Because I was just clarifying, because you can't go beyond 11 o'clock because it's a licensable activity at 11 o'clock. You're allowed live music and recorded music in the bar as it is at the moment until 11, and then it becomes licensable.
Yeah.
So if you have functions and weddings, which normally go on beyond 11 o'clock, you would have to turn the music off at 11.
Right.
Are you aware of that?
Yes, yeah, it's...
So the only way you could do that is with a temporary event notice.
Okay.
The licensing committee and the objectors and the authority all need clarity. And points from your representations which are not clear to me is that this functions is open-ended. And so the licensing committee has to look at it from the point of view, you could have one every day. So the functions for weddings and christenings and that sort of thing, they're all going to be a booked event, so pretty self-contained.
Yeah.
But you are planning to advertise things such as fireworks, Halloween, Christmas. So you can put a function on under any name that you wish, and if, like you've just indicated, if you could have a function every day, you would. So can you give us any certainty, because you're thinking of one, but there's nothing stopping you having more than one a week, is there?
Only the fact that we'd be exhausted if we did. But no, I'm...
Well, I use
As
the
in-
example of fireworks and Halloween because Halloween's on the 31st of October.
Yeah.
Fireworks is the 5th of November. That's 2 in a week. And there is no way that most businesses are not going to go for that sort of opportunity.
Well, as I said, these are closed functions. They're not...
Yes, but if you're advertising on social media, in the paper,
Well, our main object for advertising would be to tell people that we have the function hall for their private functions, rather than us running functions.
but you just said the gentleman who lives on site, it's an opportunity for him to make money with functions.
Yes, yeah.
And how would you advertise him putting that sort of function on, a band or a comedy night? Because your problem, as I see it, is how do you stop people walking up the road to come into the bar?
We would. I mean, if we're going to advertise anything, it will be as a private function. So you have to buy your ticket at least 48
ticket only.
hours. Yeah, at least 48 hours before the event, or it's a closed door.
I'm not accusing or saying you are planning to do this,
No.
but we have to be clear, and the objectives
I-
have to be clear, because theoretically, if I'm living on the Stud Hill estate, I could say I want to book in every night of the year for the next year and give you an email. That's me booked in with 48 hours notice, isn't it?
Yeah, theoretically, yes.
Yeah. So that's what we have to deal with, the
Right.
theoretical, because the licensing authority is very familiar with dealing with how people will use perfectly lawfully any lapse or a failure in the conditions in the license.
Yeah.
So at the moment, from what you've said, if you could, that function room could be used as a bar or an extension to the bar for 365 days, couldn't it?
Right.
Because that's what the licence you are applying is for.
Okay.
So are you prepared to offer conditions to limit the number of events per
Certainly,
week?
certainly.
Okay.
Oh, yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because
That's my question, sir. Mr. Key?
Thank you, Mr. Key.
Well, sorry, just following up the licensing officer's last question, which was, are you prepared to offer conditions to limit the number of events? Oh. So just repeat, just following up the licensing officer's last question, when he asked, are you prepared to offer conditions to limit the number of events? And I think you said yes.
yes,
What are you offering?
could we say a maximum of 2 a week?
Thank you. And then the question I planned to ask related to, you were asked about SIA staff. And,
Yes.
I think the gist of your answer was that you're not going to hold events that will need them. But I just wanted to clarify, on page 77 of the report is a printout or copy of an email, Appendix C, from Diane Attenborough, who's the City Council's licensing enforcement officer, in which she mentions agreed conditions. Condition B being SIA requirements for events will be on a risk assessment basis. A copy of the risk assessment will be kept on the premises and produced immediately when requested by an authorised person.
Yes.
Do you remember agreeing that?
Yes, I do remember
And
agreeing to that,
how
yeah.
does how does that condition operate, given what you've been saying about SIA that you don't want to use?
I would not, if our risk assessment came to the fact that we thought it needed that, I would not have the function.
So will there be a risk assessment for each
Definitely.
event, every
definitely,
single
for
event?
every single event.
All right,
yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Now's the opportunity for objectors to raise questions, but not make their whole objection at this point. So I'll start with Mr. Saville, and then I'll follow up with Ms. Cooper. Mr. Saville.
Hello, Chair. Thank you. My initial concern was the closure of the doors, as in the original licensing application. Sorry, the original license, where it said sound installation, which granted has been done, and then the council requested the doors be closed all the time. Throughout the summer, I wasn't convinced that was the case due to the loudness of the music. I appreciate sometimes that's hard to control, but nevertheless it's still annoying for those people nearby. I am aware that the function room has been completed, and there have been 3 events in October. 3 events?
Tests.
Just gone?
You know,
No, you advertised on Facebook the events, the live
my
music.
man does, not me.
Right. So your man monitors. He does the Facebook stuff.
Yes.
But you said you're always aware and manage the situation. So surely you'd be
Yeah.
aware of the live music in October that's just gone.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 events.
2, I think.
2. Okay. And to be brutally honest, there was no sound problem. But of course, it's cold and the doors were probably closed. I just would like an assurance that the doors remain closed all the time.
We've had air conditioning put in, so
brilliant.
they won't.
Sorry. What I meant to say, not that wasn't for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
That would be because my original request was that the conditions opposed originally would be transferred onto the new application with the soundproofing and the doors remaining closed. That was my point originally.
Okay, I think that's part of your own case, which you can make again in a short while. But you asked a particular question about of Mr. Philpott about the closure of the doors, and I wasn't quite clear what your response was to the question, which was Mr. Saville's asking
Yes,
a
we-
reassurance that those doors will be closed.
The doors will be closed, and the fact that we've had air conditioning put in, so there's no reason, whatever the weather, for the doors to be opened. Also, that there is more air conditioning going in the bar and elsewhere to make sure that none of the other residual doors will be open.
Okay, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Have you got
More?
any other
Yeah.
questions?
On the risk assessment factor, is anyone trained to carry out the risk assessments, and how would that be? If you're not trained, then how would you know what your risk assessment would be for the, as the legal representative mentioned?
Okay, have you got trained people undertaking risk assessments?
I'm not trained for it, but my bar manager is. So he will take it, and on a daily basis, he's the responsible person there.
Okay, so your bar manager is the designated premises supervisor? Is
No, I am.
You are?
I am. He is, I'm sure he'll be issuing his licence as well in the next week or two. So, yeah.
Okay. What kind of training has he had in terms of undertaking risk assessments?
He was worked for the railway, so he does a lot of that kind of thing. I don't know the actual thing that you call it.
Okay. I think that's an answer to the question. Sorry, have you got any other questions, Mr. Savone?
So, yeah, I probably do, but again, correct me if I go into my objections as opposed to questions. I think there was a mention that 48 hours notice would be given for the general public to attend, and yet you're talking about functions such as weddings, etc.
No.
Could you just clarify that for me?
Yeah, 48 hours is the cut-off point for anyone to buy a ticket to come in. With weddings, obviously, that's a different ballgame, yeah.
You need to turn your microphone on.
Apologies, Chair. I was writing some notes, so I'm just checking to make sure they don't get mixed up with the specific questions to Mr. Philpott. And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Savone. Now, Ms. Cooper, it's your opportunity to ask questions, and you can make your objection at a later stage.
Okay. My question relating to what's gone on this morning, Mr. Chairman, is the discussion about the access to the site. And it was mentioned that the only access is by the main entrance. And this isn't correct. There is a pedestrian access. And how would that be managed?
Okay, Mr. Philpott, there's more than one access.
Well, they're both at the bottom of the field. Where you came in, where you drove in today, that's the main vehicular access. And we also have one on the right-hand side as you come in from Hampton Gardens, which is just a footpath and a small gate. In the winter, as you might like to know, we will be putting a lock on the gate, so it will be only opened when we need access for people coming in, which may upset some people from the boot fair who think we're a shortcut. But that will be locked apart from if we know people are coming by foot.
Is that access, the pedestrian one, a right of way over your land?
It is just for us, yes.
So it's a pedestrian access only to access your field,
Yes,
basically?
yeah.
So it's not it's not a general
Not a
right of
public
way.
right away, no.
Okay. Although people have used it as a shortcut to
Yes.
neighbouring fields.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is keeping them off the road, I suppose.
So you're intending to during functions, lock that
Well,
gate?
Unless we know we have footfall coming in, people are walking to the function.
Right.
Because we prefer them obviously to come on the pavement than to walk around on the grass at the side of the road.
Right.
But then it can be locked while the function is on.
Okay. So I think that's an answer to the question. though it leaves it open as being another entry point possibly.
Yeah.
So I think Ms Cooper's question was, if it is left open, the intention is for ticketed people to use it, but what if unticketed people use it as well? That's quite the question, I think.
Yeah. I don't know how you change that unless you so I had a card on it or something, but then how are you going to get that to people? It's an entrance, and
Okay, maybe the question might be about, in that case, when somebody approaches the bar, how are you actually checking that they actually have a ticket?
well, we are going to obviously carry a book. If people have already bought a ticket, their name will be in there, and they will have to check off as they come in.
Okay. Ms Cooper, do you have any supplementary questions?
No, that was the only one based upon your question originally about the access, because I was concerned that pedestrian access was not being mentioned. And the only access that was discussed was the main entrance. So I think that has clarified it, though it still sounds to me a little...
Okay, many thanks, Ms Cooper, for raising that question and raising an item of importance. So thank you. Antoine, do we have
One
any
question coming out of that, sir, and it's, again, for clarification, it's just so we're all clear where we might be in the future. Let's say you have an event advertised and your capacity is 80, something like fireworks, because it's an easy one. A lot of people might not want to commit until the day of the event. So if you've got 10 booked in, and then on the 5th of November you get 70 saying, well, it's a lovely night, I'd like to pop along to the old garage bar, are you going to turn away 70?
Yes,
You are.
yes, and I will enjoy myself with the fireworks on my own.
Okay.
Okay, one more supplementary question, Mr Surveyor.
Sorry, Chair. You mentioned functions along with the campsite. And if you have 80 people, conservatively 30 vehicles, plus the campers, where are they going to park?
Well, if it's in the summer, they can park on my field. But in the winter, if this is granted, then I already have a storage yard which I can make room for.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. That's the end of that section. Now, normally we'd have responsible authorities. Do we have any, Mr Walden, do we have any statements from responsible authorities at all?
Responsible authorities will just contact us to say they've got no representations, so they are not included in the pack.
Okay, so there are no representations from responsible authorities in respect of this application. So we're going to move on now, and this is the opportunity for the objectors to state their full objection. So I'm going to switch around and say, Ms Cooper, would you like to make your full objection at this point? And I have to say, after you've made your full objection, Mr Philpott, councillors may ask questions of you, and Mr Philpott also has a right to ask questions of you as well, but only questions, okay? So, Ms Philpott? Sorry, Ms Cooper?
I wasn't expecting, I don't know if Mark's ready to speak on his first, so I can bring mine up then.
Okay, we're going to switch around.
If you wouldn't mind.
As Ms Cooper's getting her objection ready, Mr Savelle, can you make your objection at this point, and then we'll go to Ms Cooper.
Yes, sorry, Chair. Again, it was it's an awkward one because of the matters raised today would then lead me to think there's some more questions to be asked. So I wasn't pre-prepared. Anecdotally, again, so this is not an evidential basis, I'm not convinced that all the rules are being currently complied as already stated. And there is almost a question I need to ask Mr. Walden before I proceed, if that's possible.
Yes, you can ask a question, Mr. Walden.
Mr. Walden, in the new function room, would you be allowed to serve or consume alcohol in the function room at present? Oh, that's me.
It would depend. I would have to have a quick look at the license. If the license allows for on and off sales, you can buy at the bar and then go into the function room, and that would be considered an off sale, as long as the license permits it. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'll just look at that.
Yeah.
It's in Appendix A, and on page 62, the licensable activities permitted by the license are the sale and supply of alcohol on and off the premises. So you can't purchase from you couldn't have a bar in the function room, but you can go to the bar, buy your drink and bring it back in.
Thank you for that one. Following the conversation that I heard earlier during the meeting and the objections raised by your colleagues, which is quite promising from my perspective, my objection would be that I think a temporary events notice would be more appropriate in the circumstances as opposed to a full license, where I'm not convinced that we've got the right. There's a lot of assumptions and guesses at the moment, and types of functions and events that would be carried on, and how many per week, etc. After all, this is a caravan park which is open certain months of the year, and I wouldn't like to think, just living next door, that it becomes a full 12-month-a-year service, bearing in mind that the general public can enter some of these premises. Functions aside, for weddings and wakes, etc., I would be totally happy with, but if we progress too far, then we're going past the original remit of this is a 7-month season of the year. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions? No. Mr. Philpott, do you have any questions of Mr. Saville?
None, actually. I'm quite happy he's brought that up, because I wouldn't like to think it was going to be a 12-month season either, because I'm getting too old for that.
Okay, thank you for that. Has that finished your?
Well, it'll have to be, Chair. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ms. Cooper, are you ready? Okay, if you'd like to make your objection now.
I think possibly the conversation you've just held confirms a lot of my concerns. And my biggest concern was that it was going to become a 12-month of a year event place. In my written objection, I raised the point that we were subject to the Santos Circus being positioned on that site this summer. And for the whole of August, pretty much, the noise from that facility was objectionable. It was intolerable. I actually moved out of my house because of it. And that, to me, was in breach of the original campsite license, in that there shouldn't have been PA systems. So because of that, my concern is that in the future, rules may be bent in order to facilitate certain functions. And based upon that experience of trying to stop the noise from the circus, I would not like to have that experience repeated. And so that is what made me pose questions in the first place was because of the intolerable noise that we had from that event. I have to say, in support of Mr. Philpott, that all he's done in soundproofing his new venue is working for me. I haven't got a problem with that. I am also concerned about the access route and the possibility of the general public being able to just wander in. I understand that you're asking for ticketed sales, but I still believe that there will be people who will just access through the pedestrian route. And those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you, Ms Cooper. Now, this is an opportunity for questions to Ms Cooper. Do we have one?
Yeah, I've got one. If that's it. Yeah, morning, Ms Cooper. You've told us you had issues. So you're only allowed a certain, no, if you just turn it off. Yeah, thank you. You're only allowed a certain number of mics on at a time. Okay. You told us you had issues this summer, and you talked about the circus. Were you able to raise these with anybody on site?
Multiple times. I have had major correspondence with the environmental part of the council, right up to Councillor Andrew Harvey. I had a meeting with him. I had various meetings with various people, and everybody just said that there was nothing could be done. And yet, I made the mistake, personally, that I didn't contact licensing. And if I had contacted licensing, I could have raised the point that this was in breach of the original campsite license. But I was not aware of that until I started to research this piece.
Did you contact Mr. Philpott?
No, I contacted Santos Circus Direct. I went over and spoke to them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. No further questions from us. Mr Philpott, do you have any questions of Ms Cooper?
No, only the fact I wish she'd come and see me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I hear that you're offering Ms Cooper the possibility of coming to talk to you about these kind of matters?
We have a complete open door policy.
Okay.
Anybody has a problem, they come and see us and we'll try and fix it.
And is it the case that the circus was on your site?
It was on my bottom field, which is not actually part of the campsite. And being a circus, they're not a licensable entity.
Okay.
Sorry, can I say something?
Hold on, I just want to hear Mr Philpott out first.
The only reason we had the circus this year was they lost their field at the other end through the death of the guy who owned the field. And they came to me in a panic because they had shows booked here. That's my business, is entertainment. And they came in, made a mess of my field, and didn't make much money out of it either. So I can't see that I'll be having them again, which is what everybody would like to know, whether I was or I wasn't.
Okay, so let me just clarify. You say this was not on your campsite site bit, but it was the same field but the lower end.
The lower end of the field.
Where there's no sites for caravans. Is
No,
that correct?
no. It's I use it in accordance with the 36 day rule. Well, it's actually 52 now, isn't it? Yeah. For the, in the peak of summer, but it's not part of the campsite itself.
Okay, so you're saying this was a one-off this year because the circus
Well,
was
they were in trouble.
they were in trouble,
Yeah.
so you helped them out with
Yeah.
allowing them to use the bottom
Yeah.
of your field.
Yeah.
But you're not envisaging doing that again, is that correct?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I've probably got 6 months' work to make the field flat again.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Right, well, thank you for that. Do we have, Mr. Warden, do you have any comments or questions? Okay, Mr. Key? Mr. Key's going to ask a general matter.
So, if the committee grant the licence, you've set out in your application conditions to vary the two in the annex about the general public
Yeah.
and about the months of operation. But I'm right in thinking today you've added one extra condition you've offered, which is that there would be a maximum of 2 of these functions or events per week.
Yeah.
And you also have agreed to the conditions as recorded by Diane Attenborough.
Yes.
And that's comprehensively covers all the conditions that you're putting forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Cooper, this was in respect of your objection. Are you satisfied that you've made your objection fully?
Certainly hope so. Being a layperson, I probably haven't, but thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we've got any other questions. Sorry. I don't think we've got any other questions on this. No? Right. In that case, we're basically coming to the point where the applicant can actually make a response to the issues raised overall, and then following that, there's no questions to that, but following that, we will retire to consider our decision. So, Mr. Philpott, here's your chance to, in a sense, make a reply in general to issues that have been raised.
Yeah, in general, I'm quite happy with the extra conditions. And what has been raised, obviously, well, I'm just happy with everything. So if we can get this matter resolved, all the better. That's it.
Okay. Well, many thanks, everybody for putting their case, and it's now for us to actually make a decision. So we'll consider how long we might be, and I'll let you know in a mo. Okay, we're going to take about half an hour. So we're basically adjourning for the moment to retire to consider things. We'll be retiring in a very silent fashion to our room, saying nothing en route, and we'll make our decision, and we'll be back here just after 12 o'clock, and we'll resume, and then we can announce our decision. Okay? Thank you. Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. And I'd like to say thank you, first of all, to the objectors as well as Mr. Philpott for their contributions to both the discussion about the application and to our thinking. So many thanks for that. And I'd also like to note and reinforce Mr. Philpott's offer for local residents to come up and have a chat with him on his site, at his site, which is quite important that that offer is there. Now, I'd like to say that we are minded to grant the application, subject to conditions, and we have discussed some of those conditions, and we'd like to formalise in some conditions some of the other discussion that's happened. And I'm going to ask Mr. Key, our legal advisor, to actually announce our decision in more detail and more formally. So, Mr. Key, please.
So the licensing subcommittee has taken account of the application, of what it saw on the site visit. It's taken account of the representations, both the written ones and all representations and submissions and things said here by the applicant and the two other persons who have put in written representations. It's all been considered. They've also taken account of the main Licensing Act 2003, which sets out, amongst other matters, the licensing objectives, including the prevention of public nuisance. They've also taken into account the Council's own statement of licensing policy and is aware of the statutory regimes concerning human rights, crime and disorder, and equalities. The decision to grant is subject to certain conditions. So there is the main application, which asks for the abolition of the restriction on the months of the year that licensable activities can be carried out, and also about the general public. And during the hearing, the applicant, Mr. Philpott, speaking for the applicant, offered that there would be a maximum of 2 of the events or functions referred to in the variation applied for per week. So that will be the first additional condition. Then there are the conditions agreed with Diane Attenborough, the City Council's licensing officer, with regard to B, which starts with the words SIA requirements for events will be on a risk assessment basis. The subcommittee want to add the words to be carried out by an appropriately qualified person. And then not part of the license granted or conditions, the licensing subcommittee note that an authorised person, including the council's licensing officer, licensing enforcement officer, can ask for a copy of the risk assessments, and just wanted to flag up that if there is any problem with SIA staff lack of or risk assessments not being robust enough, then there could be a review application on the licence. So just to flag that aspect up. Then there's one other condition which hasn't been mentioned before at the hearing, and I raise it now to try to finalise the wording, taking into account anything that Mr. Philpott might say. The point of it is that the people living nearby should have at least a mobile phone number that they can call the DPS on if they have concerns about what's happening. And it's the provision of contact details by leaflet to those living in Vauxhall Avenue, telling them that the licence exists, that events will be held, and that in the event of any issue, the neighbour can contact the DPS, Mr. Philpott, by mobile phone on such and such a number. There must be, the minimum, a mobile phone, and also possibly additionally, if possible, an email address. I notice one of the objectors, because I mentioned Vauxhall Avenue. So I'll just confer with the chair about the addresses which are to be leafleted with this contact information. Hampton Gardens and Vauxhall Avenue.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Philpott, so we're talking about the house at the bottom of your field, which is, what address is that? Okay, so we're suggesting Sweet William Whitstable Road, we're suggesting Vauxhall Avenue, and we're suggesting Hampton Gardens. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. So the obligation being to leaflet those places with that information, that there is the licensed function rooms, and this is the mobile, and possibly also the email address.
Can you turn your microphone on for the recording, please?
Yeah, okay. I will give them the bar managers and my phone number in case you can't get one of us, and the email address, yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I think that concludes the conditions to be added to what's already in the papers with the grant. Just to explain that although you've been granted, you do still have a right of appeal, as do the other persons present. That's a right of appeal under Section 181 of and Schedule 5.2, the Licensing Act 2003. There's a really strict time limit of 21 days, and the appeal is not sent to the City Council, it's sent to the Magistrates' Court. And in case you're wondering why you might want to appeal it, you have a right to appeal against conditions you don't like. So you've been notified of the right of appeal. And Chair, I think that concludes matters for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Key. Now, I'd like to say that that really concludes our business about the application, and we do indeed encourage the maximum amount of support and coordination between yourself and your neighbours, because that's only going to help your business succeed in a way that is neighbourly, which is important. So I'd like to thank everybody for their contribution today and for helping us come to that decision. So that matter is closed, and we have to return to our main agenda, which is to final business, which is to check out any other urgent business. I've not been notified of any other urgent business, and therefore I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and I'm closing this meeting. So thank you very much.